Good day, grade 11s from your Kode classroom. What a fabulous day. Are you ready for your first poetry lesson? I would like for you, if possible, to take down notes. I will give you a copy of the poem, or if you like, you can copy it in your book and then write down the notes around it. It is a bit of a challenge. We're not used to it. Some of us can copy the poem, others not. So do the best that you can, okay? As long as you get a sound footing as to what is going on in this poem. Right, are you ready to start? Please go and get out your poetry books. Right, the first poem, let me put it this way, that we will be doing is I Sit and Look Out by Walt Whitman. It is lesson number 12, as you can see there, for the 21st of the 5th. Right, I'm going to start out by first reading the poem to you, so that you can get a good idea as to what is happening. I would like for you to close your eyes and listen carefully. Right, let's start. I sit and look out upon all the sorrows of the world and upon all oppression and shame. I hear secret convulsive sobs from young men at anguish with themselves, remorseful after deeds done. I see in low life the mother misused by her children, dying, neglected, gaunt, desperate. I see the wife misused by her husband. I see the treacherous seducer of young women. I mark the ranklings of jealousy and unrequited love, attempted to be hid. I see these sights on the earth. I also see the workings of battle, pestilence, tyranny. I see martyrs and prisoners. I observe famine at sea. I observe the sailors casting lots on who shall be killed to preserve the lives of the rest. I observe the slights and the degradations cast by arrogant persons upon labourers, the poor, and upon Negroes and the like. All these, all the meanness and agony without end, I, sitting, look out upon, see, hear, and I am silent. Right. Now, let your mind go about the poem, I Sit and Look Out. Where do you suppose the speaker or the poet is? Sitting. Could be anywhere. He's sitting and contemplating, thinking about things that he sees, that he hears, just like you might have been doing now during this 54 period of lockdown. You have been bombarded by different concepts of what COVID-19 is, conspiracy theories, this and that, good news and bad news. And you can kind of identify with what is going on here after you have heard about some of the atrocities happening all over the world. Right, now I've written down the notes for you, which will make it a bit easier. What is the poem I Sit and Look Out about? In this poem, Walt Whitman, the poet, echoes all the miseries and the atrocities of life that rose to the surface after and during the wake of capitalism. The 19th century, we have witnessed a sea of changes in the lives of people, as there was now a rat race for material possessions, and things became more prominent. Who am I? What am I driving? Where am I working? And all of those things. And principles were relegated. People didn't mind about it so much. Concerns and emotions were sidelined from the makeup of us as human beings. What makes us up? Compassion, empathy, religion. All of those things seem to have been sidetracked in this race for materialism. Why did he write this poem? What is his intention? In writing this poem, he criticizes anybody, you, me, politicians, whoever, who allows these terrible things to happen in the world. He says people should not be happy with doing nothing. Everybody should be fighting against cruelty and oppression. Whether you stand up at school against the bully, you are fighting against cruelty and oppression. Whether you stand up for your little sister or for what you believe in, whether it be at home or in society or amongst your friends, you have to take a stand at some point in your life, okay? Diction. Why do we think diction or vocabulary is important? In this poem, you will see that Whitman uses specific words. He could have used any words, but he chose powerful words that will evoke a highly emotional response from us as we sit there and we read that poem. He also makes use of repetition. He lists all the various things that he sees. He says, I sit and look, I hear secret sobs, I see in low life the mother, I mark or take note of the ranklings of jealousy. So he lists all those things. And also the repetition of the word all, when he says all these, all the meanness, and upon all oppression. When he mentions all, those are powerful words that stresses the suffering which we find in the poem. You will see that I have highlighted them in yellow and purple for you, so that when we get to the poem, you will see that it is easier to pick up on that. Now, what type of poem is this? This is a satire, because in this poem, troubled times are described, and it is the agony and not the beauty as we would expect that lies in the eyes of the beholder, the person, the onlooker. You don't see beauty, but you see evilness and degradation and jealousy and agony. So there we have the satire, okay. The theme that is addressed, or the issues that is addressed by the poem. Remember I explained to you, there are various themes that come to the front, sometimes in a poem, or when you think of Merchant of Venice, or Romeo and Juliet, various issues that are addressed, love, hate, relationships, beliefs, and so forth, okay? In this poem, the issues that are addressed, the poem highlights our personal responsibility for human suffering. It is not someone far off who is responsible for stopping the suffering. It starts with you and me. So it highlights what is our responsibility for human suffering. That we have a choice, you and me, to do something and to do nothing, and to let it continue, or to take a stand and do something against the misery and oppression. You have a choice, and that choice only you can make. Tone. What is tone? There's a difference between tone and mood. The tone is the feeling that the poet creates when he writes this poem. And when we read the poem, we don't feel happy or excited. We have kind of a negative feeling. We are pessimistic. Wow, look at all these bad things that are happening in the world. All these things this person is seeing. None of them are good. Okay, so we get a negative feeling when we read the poem. The mood is our feelings, the mood that when we read the poem, okay? How do I feel? Okay, the poem creates a negative feeling towards society. I feel sad, I feel despair, I feel grim, hopeless. There are various words that you can use to describe how it makes you feel. Okay, please note that you will give a one-word answer for these two whenever they are asked. It's always a one-word answer. Okay. Not, he is feeling sad, just sad, if you are asked to reflect on the tone or the mood. Then the setting is always time and place. You will not be told to mention the time and place. You have to know by now that setting always refers to time and place. In this case, the poet uses the present tense when he explains what he sees. He says, I sit and look, I hear, I see, I observe everything happening in the present. So he uses the present tense and he talks about issues that are relevant, things that he sees that could be happening any place and any time in the world. It might also be in his thoughts that he is having a recollection of what he sees. Right, now we get to the speaker. Who is the speaker in the poem? And I went and I made beautiful colored copies for you. When I look at the poem, I sit, I look, I hear. The I is my first person narrator or speaker. It might be the poet. Please note, it is not necessarily always the poet, okay? Now, what do we know about him? He is sitting and observing and thinking about all the bad things that he sees and hears in the world around him. He is uninvolved, okay? He doesn't ever get involved. He's just a passive observer or onlooker. He appears not to care about the suffering of the people. He just tells us about what he sees. The I, throughout this poem, here is the poem in a nutshell, is used 13 times. I. You will count them and you will see there's an I that is used 13 times, followed by a verb. I sit, I see, I observe, I hear. Okay. Why does he use it so many times? Because it shows that he is definitely aware of the horrors. You will not say, I see you, I will visit you, I know about this, I that, if you are not personally involved, okay? So it shows that he is aware of the horrors that he lists or mentions, but he chooses to stay silent. It's his choice. He does not want to get involved. And isn't that an accusation against humanity nowadays? You will stop at a robot and you will not make eye contact with the person standing there asking for money, because then you feel personally involved. So rather not look at him and just drive off quickly. Rather not speak about this guy that's being bullied, okay? Just maybe you will have to go and say something against him in the office and you might be implicated. So it is better to just stay silent. He doesn't want to become involved. The speaker refers to himself, but he is also addressing the reader. So he is speaking in the poem, I see this, I sit and look out. But in doing that, he tells us, but wait, you are also doing exactly the same. You are also looking out. You are also seeing these things. And you are also doing nothing, just like he is. When you look at the poem, you can go and divide the poem up into pieces. Lines 1 and 2 shows the sorrow due to self-knowledge. These people that come to realize that they have done something wrong. Okay? Lines 3 and 4 shows the physical and the emotional abuse of women, the mother and the wife. And then lines 5 and 8, war, all pestilence, tyranny, the people at sea that are dying from hunger. It shows cruel actions of society, governments and politicians. And then the last 2 lines, those are the speaker's reaction that we pick up there. Right, let's have a look at the poem. I sit and look out upon the sorrows of the world. The sorrows meaning great mental or physical pain that I see in the world. And upon all oppression and shame. All being a hyperbole, all the oppression. It's not maybe always possible to see all the oppression in the world. So he is exaggerating a bit there. Oppression, what do we understand under oppression? It is the cruel and unjust treatment of people. It is unfair, whether it be men against women, nations against nations, rich against poor. It is unjust treatment of people. So in this first line, in bold, I highlighted for you that the poet speaks of the sadness and cruelty that is happening throughout the world. It is a severe mental or physical pain or suffering that is being experienced. Like in this little picture, the land of the free with terms and conditions which apply. So it is not for everyone, okay? You will be oppressed and you will find oppression. Then we get to line 2. I hear secret convulsive sobs from young men at anguish. Now, they are at anguish, and it explains that they are violently crying. Okay, the convulsive sobs. Anguish, severe mental and physical pain again. And the S sound is definitely an alliteration, reinforcing the idea that this person is sobbing, is sad. Okay, it describes the personal suffering and guilt and regret of young men who have done terrible things. Right, then we go on to line 3. Let me just take this one away. I see in low life the mother misused by her children. How is she misused? How do you misuse your mother? You treat her badly, disrespectful, you don't value her, then she is being misused. Okay. She is now dying, neglected, gaunt and desperate. What does that mean, neglected? No one comes to visit her. No one pays attention to her. She is rejected and forgotten. Be very careful when you get older that you do not fall into the trap of misusing your parents by forgetting them, never having time to visit them. It is really a thing of today where people go and put their parents in an old age home and they forget about them. So please guard against this. Gaunt. Why is she gaunt? She is emaciated. Emaciated means that she looks lean and haggard. cheeks are fallen in, maybe her dark circles under her eyes, bony. It's all due to suffering, hunger, age. That plays a big role in that, but also her physical health can also impact on that, and also heartache, missing you. Okay, so that has a big contribution to the neglect of the mother or the father. Doesn't necessarily have to be the mother. Okay, he talks of the old dying woman who is rejected by her children in this line. She is alone and in hopelessness. No one cares about her. She feels desperate and hopeless. Then in line 4, he sees the wife who is misused by her husband. Now, when you say misused, what do you mean with that? She might be ill-treated. She might be disrespected. She might be cheated on by her husband. Okay, especially when you look at the next part of that line. I see the treacherous seducer of young women. Treacherous meaning he is deceptive and he betrays his wife. Okay, when he is a seducer of young women, he is not interested in his wife anymore, but he entices someone much younger into a sexual activity. That is what a seducer does. So he speaks in this line of the woman who is abused by her husband and the untrustworthy man who manipulates her, and he uses young women for sexual pleasure. Nowadays, husbands do not seem to value and respect their wives anymore. So that is also an outcry against society, against marriage, against relationships. And we are all kind of guilty in that. Whether you are just going out with someone on school level, whether you're engaged, whether you get married. Okay, he addresses issues like cheating, honesty, respect in that line. Line 5, I mark the ranklings of jealousy and unrequited love, attempted to be hid, and I see these sights on the earth. Now he sees, I mark, I see, I take note of the ranklings of jealousy. What are the ranklings of jealousy? It's things that causes annoyance or resentment or jealousy, okay? Cheating. You drive a nice car, you have a nicer phone. All those things causes jealousy, okay? So he notices all these things amongst people he knows close by, and then furthermore, when you go on in society, politicians against each other, where he might be working in the workplace, he will pick up on that. And unrequited love. What is that? Okay, that is when you might love someone or have an affection towards them, but it is unanswered. Okay, they do not answer your love, and therefore it is unrequited. These sights and occurrences are occurrences that he sees on the earth. It describes those who try to hide their jealousy or the fact that their love is not returned. We all kind of build walls around us. We see these things, but we try to pretend that we are okay. They always say when you ask a girl what's wrong, and she says, nothing, I'm fine. Fine is just the opposite of she's not fine. Okay, so therefore he tries to hide these things that are troublesome, and he picks up on these that people hide. I see the workings of battle and pestilence and tyranny. Now we have been noticing these things in the world. If you just watch television, if you read newspapers, wars happening in countries. Holocausts, wars, different countries that are involved in different types of wars, where it's genocide or between Israel and Palestine, religious war. People are fighting wars, whether it be about oil in Iran or Iraq. There are reasons for fighting a war and getting involved. But the misery that comes from a war, that is also what he is seeing and addressing. Why do the people that wage the wars not think of the collateral damage, the people that are being hurt and killed in this instance? Pestilence, diseases and epidemics, oh boy, is this close at home. We are in this. It's amidst our daily lives, this COVID-19 epidemic. Okay, so we get first-hand knowledge of the influence of something like that. People are being desperate. They don't have food to eat. They're losing their jobs, their homes. Children are suffering. There's lots of suffering that goes with this. Tyranny. The oppressive and political rule of governments can be tyrannical. They don't care about their citizens. Think of a communistic government, for example, North Korea. Those people do not care about the citizens in the country. It's all about the government and the rule that they want to employ there. I see martyrs, he says, and prisoners everywhere. Martyrs, people who are being killed for their beliefs. Prisoners, prisoners of war. For example, you get caught, you are a prisoner of war. Your country doesn't want to go into discussions about your release, so you will be locked up there in some foreign prison forever. Convictions or beliefs. You might be a prisoner because of your convictions or beliefs opposing your government. We all know now that people get into trouble for distributing fake news, or for maybe these conspiracy theorists. They might get into trouble. Okay. Then in this line 6, he talks of large-scale destruction that is happening through war, through natural disasters, plagues, diseases, epidemics, AIDS, the Ebola virus, all those things, of political oppression, and of those who are killed or jailed for their political views. That is what is being addressed in line 6. Line 7, he observes a famine at sea. Now, that's not something we know about very much, because we don't get onto the sea very much. But if you are stuck at sea and you are in a boat and you have limited food resources, you might get into a situation where people will have to start, like they say, casting a lot, throwing a dice. In this case, it's not throwing a dice, but where the sailors are observed casting lots on who shall be killed to preserve the lives of the rest. Famine is an extreme hunger due to the scarcity of food, and to cast a lot. It's not really the same as throwing a dice, but in the olden days, long ago, during the times of Jesus, casting a lot was actually taking white smooth stones and putting them into a cup. But there was only one stone there that was black. Today, we still hear the expression where you say somebody is being blackballed. Okay, so he is being cast out. All right. When they cast lots, then each person took a stone out, and after they were shaken up in that cup or wherever, and then the one who received the black one was the guilty one, or the one being cast out. There was never a chance of choosing the wrong stone or being wrong, okay, to be cast out, because they said that God is sovereign. He knows even over the lots that you choose, the stones that you choose. who shall be killed, who will be sacrificed or sacrifice themselves, kind of, in order for the others to survive. So in this line, he speaks of those who are lost at sea, deciding who should live or die in order for the others to survive on the limited supplies that are left. In line 8, he goes on to say, I observe the slights and degradations caused by arrogant persons. He sees these slights, these insults, and this humiliation that is being conducted by arrogant people. There's nothing worse than somebody who is arrogant looking down onto somebody else because maybe they don't have the same nice clothes, they don't stay in the same nice type of house that you do, they're not as wealthy as you are, and those things are hurtful and are bad. Okay. Slights or insults, degradations, humiliating and degrading someone because they're not on the same level, be it a social level, financial level, than you are. Cast, they cast, okay? So therefore insults are thrown at those people, and we say it is personification because you can't throw an insult. Okay. Upon laborers and the poor and upon Negroes and the like. Now laborers this is a universal poem. So when he speaks of laborers, he speaks of the working class. Some people look down upon the working class. They're not educated, they don't have degrees, they just do manual labor, and therefore they're not considered to be educated or refined enough. The poor also can't help that they don't have all the opportunities that the others had, but they still look down upon them and insult them, whether it is a beggar on the street, somebody staying in a squatter camp, because at some time in life misfortune might come your way. And these people feel that it is fine if they insult them and if they degrade and humiliate them. Upon Negroes and the like. Now, Negroes referring to a time period in history where the African American people that were taken by ship from Africa to America were sold as slaves, and then to Europe and from there on over the world. They were working for free on those farms. They had no human rights at all. They could be sold and resold and so forth. They were basically the property of the person who bought them. And they were treated without respect or dignity. And that is also not good, treating somebody as if they have no dignity or respect. These are all issues that the poet is addressing. He talks of those who are prejudiced and insults people, and it is directed at the working class, the black people, and the poor. Then we go to line 9. All these, he says, all the meanness and the agony without end, I, sitting, look out upon. So what is he doing? He is not doing anything but sitting, and he looks out at this and he thinks about it, all the meanness and all the agony without end. You can see it pouring out of this mouth. Okay, the meanness, the purposeful hurting, the miserliness, the malice, the greed, the disrepute, all the things that is bad and mean. Agony, the extreme physical and emotional pain that is being caused without stop. It seems as if the world has gone mad and people do not realize what they are doing to other people anymore. It's without end, he says. He reminds us here that all this misery is unending. Yet, even though he says it's unending, he still does not do anything. Okay? He sits and he looks out upon it. It's very good and well and said and done to tell us about all these things, but what does he do? He is not really spurred on to do anything about it. He says there, see, hear, and am silent. So he sits there, he sees it, he hears it, and am silent. It is a final reminder of the speaker's refusal to become involved or to speak out about all these wrongs. He's just silent. And that is why I wrote it in red for you. Okay. Now there's a nice little saying to ponder on. Support oppression and do nothing. Because that is exactly what you have to do in order to support oppression. Never take a stand, never speak out against any wrongs. You're not going to be well liked or favorable because people that commit these wrongs never want to be pointed at and placed on the spot and being told that they are doing the wrong thing. That is why people get locked up, get killed, get just ignored because you take a stand. So you have to think long and hard about this. Support oppression and do nothing. Because the minute you start doing something, nobody is going to like you anymore. And that is something we need to take note of. Right, ladies and gentlemen. Not a very difficult poem, just understand all these things that the poet sees out there and thinks and hears and observes and what he is actually addressing, which things is a problem in the world and why is he doing nothing. Something interesting I want to leave you here with is the thought that couldn't this be ironic? Because in writing this poem, he isn't really doing nothing anymore. He is actually speaking out. He's not silent anymore. He wrote a poem which forced us to take note personally of our own involvement in the world around us and in people's lives. And maybe in doing so, we might start to affect a change in society. Right, here are your questions. There are only 6. I am going to take photos for you of all of this and the poem, and I will send it through to the RCL. You must have fun, and I think we will be seeing each other very soon, but we will hear about it later today. So have a great rest of your COVID holiday, working holiday, stay at home holiday, because some of you, I think, is more on a holiday than that you are working, but I do suggest that you start working a bit because it is going to catch up to you very soon. Have a lovely day, darlings, until we see each other again. Bye bye.